this is about to be the quickest wrap up I've ever done in my life because I'm determined I'm not going to ramble. I don't really have any major thoughts or issues with the books that I read in February, so I feel like, you know, this is going to be quick. It's going to be good. February was not a good reading month for me. It started off not too bad. Way back at a different time, at a simpler time in January, I tried to read a book every day at the very end of the month, and I started on like the last day of January. I started Half a World Away by Mike Gale, and I was like, I'm gonna get this read. Like, look at the size of this. I can read this in a day, totally, 100%. I can do it. And then I read the first 50 pages, and then before I knew it, it was the 1st of February, and then the 2nd of February, and the 3rd of February, and then I was filming my wrap up, and I was like, oh god, I still haven't finished this book. I can't include it. So I read it in February, not January, like I was planning to. But it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. I read it in February, and it was my first book that I read in February. And it's called Half a World Away. And oh my goodness, I gave this book 5 stars. It was so good. I loved it. I'm gonna read the back to you, and then I can talk about it. Oh my god, what is my hair? Honestly, I don't know what this look is. This is just... I whip my hair back and forth, I whip my hair back and forth. Strangers living worlds apart, but it wasn't always that way. Carrie is a single mum living on a tough South London estate. She provides for her son by cleaning houses she could never afford. Taken into care as a child, Carrie cannot forget her past. Noah is a successful barrister with a beautiful wife, daughter and home in fashionable Primrose Hill. Adopted as a young child, Noah never looks back. When Carrie contacts Noah, the sibling she lost on the day when they were torn apart as children, she sets in motion a chain of events that will change both of their lives forever. So this book, I knew nothing about it going into it. I'd seen it pop up a few times on like Instagram and stuff. I've seen people reading it. The cover looked familiar, and oh my goodness, this book was such a surprise. I really enjoyed it. I really loved the characters. I thought they were well developed. I could sort of see where the story was going. I had a bit of a premonition. I was like, something's afoot here. Something ain't right. And oh my goodness, this book made me feel all sorts of ways. It was just so good, so sad at times. I cried at the end. It made me wish that I had a long lost sibling out there who would just come and find me. Please come find me, please. I absolutely loved it. I thought it was really, really good. It was written well. Highly recommend if you're looking for something that's, I'm not going to say light-hearted because there are issues in the book. You know, the characters have their own issues that they're struggling with. It's like a heartwarming story, but it's also sad. It really tugs at your heartstrings. There are issues, but it's great. It was so good. I cannot praise this book anymore. It is just, I recommend it. I recommend it if you're just looking for something that's easygoing, easy to read. What is that noise? I flew through quite fast. I know I got off to a bad start with it when I only read like 50 pages one day, but then once I really committed to it and I got into it and I was reading like 100 pages in like one sitting, and it was great, and I absolutely loved it, and I think you might love it too. If you like this kind of books that are more like character driven, then I think that's what they are. Like, they're like character driven stories more so than like plot driven story. Yeah, that's what that is. Yeah. I mean, it's plot, but it's plot that revolves around characters. Isn't that just what books are anyway? What the hell am I talking about? I talk about these things and I don't even know what I'm talking about. Anyway, next up, the second and the last book that I read in February. That's embarrassing, man. Like, why am I even on BookTube? I don't read. Honestly, I don't know how people read so much. It will never be me. I'm lucky if I read like 4 books in a month. I've seen times where I've maybe read like 8. I just have been doing other things and just occasionally reading, but then once I start reading and I get into a book, I read it so fast and I get through it and I'm like, yes, I've read this book, now I can read something else. But do I read something else? No. Anyway, but the second book and the last book is the book of the month for the Let's Get Classical book club that I am a part of, and the book this month was Jane Eyre, and I was so excited because I had this book. I bought it a while ago. I bought a few classic novels from the works. I love the covers that they have. They're all, I can see a couple here. Like, I have Alice in Wonderland and Classic Tales of Horror and Allan Poe, Vanity Fair, which, when am I ever gonna read that? Why did I buy it? because it was only £3. That's why I bought it. But I'd never read Jane Eyre before. I didn't know an awful lot about it going in. I did know like the major kind of plot twist. Do I want to say it? Do I want to say it out loud? I mean, is it like a spoiler? Like, do people know what this book's about? Do you know? Do you know what I know? Either way, I already knew what the kind of main thing, or the main like surprise of the book from just like, you know, I think it actually popped up as like a question on like a quiz show that I was watching, and it just kind of stuck with me ever since. So when I was reading this book, I already knew the twist, what I call it, the surprise. I knew what was going on kind of thing. So that kind of took away a little bit, but I was still surprised because the person that I thought it was going to be, it wasn't, and it turned out to be a whole like separate thing, and I was a bit kind of like, oh. I just had an absolute heart attack. The camera just like shut off, and I was like, I thought that the footage just went away, but then it popped up, so we're good. We're good. I think I ran out of storage. I think that's what it was. Good grief. I was like, do not tell me I'm gonna have to refilm that, because I won't, because I can't be bothered. But, so I didn't really know the story of Jane Eyre going into it. I'm sorry about that. There's work going on at the house next door to me. I didn't really know an awful lot about Jane Eyre going into it. I'd never read it before. I've never read like, there's ever been like any kind of books written inspired by it. I'm not sure. What the? If there's like movie adaptations of it, I never seen it, so I don't really know. But I'll read the back. Are you serious? So I'll read the back to you, and you can decide for yourself if you think this is a book you could be interested in reading. I would recommend it. I feel like as far as classicals go, this was a really good one. The story's heroine, Jane, is a plain and plain-speaking orphan whose determination, good nature and spirit sees her through a series of personal ordeals from an early age. When she takes up a position as a governess at Thornfield Hall to teach 8-year-old Adele, she is resigned to an uneventful career. But then the moody, charismatic owner of Thornfield, Edward Rochester, makes a rare visit to the hall, and Jane's impassioned self-respect and moral conviction are tested to breaking point. I gave this book 5 stars. I gave this book 5 stars because this might be one of my favourite classics that I've ever read. I feel like maybe it helped that I knew nothing about it going into it apart from the plot twist. And I feel like it was written so beautifully. It was descriptive, but I felt like it was so easy to understand. Normally a lot of times with classics I find that I'm just thick and I struggle just to understand the kind of that older style of writing, especially when it comes to dialogue. I struggle a lot with dialogue, and I remember like when I was reading Wuthering Heights, I really struggled with it. I tend to struggle a lot with classic novels just because of that old style of writing, and a lot of times I just don't know, I don't really know what's going on, or I think I know what's going on and then I realise that I actually don't know what's going on, and I'm just a ball of confusion until something happens and I'm like, oh wait a minute, now I get it. But with this book, I just felt like it was done so well, it was written so beautifully, I understood what was going on, and yeah, I will admit there were still times when characters were talking to each other. Just because of the way that Mr. Rochester spoke a lot of the times, I was like, dude, I have no idea what you're trying to say. He was a bit weird. So there were still times that I just felt like I didn't really know when they were talking. But either way, I was still, even though like I knew what happened, I was still rooting for them. Like I low-key fell in love with him a little bit, and I was like, I know what you've done, but I'm still in love with you a little bit. Oh my gosh, I'm a sucker for a like Lord of the Manor type guy, especially if he's nice. Like he was so nice to his staff, he was so nice to Jane. I mean, he was a bit deceptive, and he did basically sort of like influence her a little bit with the fact that he was leading her on to believe that he was going to be getting married to somebody else, kind of like heightening her jealousy. I did read a few reviews that people said that was like abusive, they didn't like him because of that, and I get it, I do get that, but I mean, I feel like making someone jealous intentionally, is that manipulative? Yes, it is. It is. Actually, it is. So let's just not get into that. But even still, I was obsessed. But then, and then when things happened, I was so proud of Jane. Jane might be one of my favourite heroines of all time. As a classic fiction heroine, I feel like Jane was great. She stood up for herself. She took herself out of situations that were bad for her or not good, and I just loved it. She wasn't afraid to speak her mind. I loved her. I just, you know, sometimes you find when you read books like this, females especially, all come across the exact same way, that they're all about beauty and looks and wanting to get married to rich husbands and all that, and sometimes I just feel they're always very willing to submit to men and stuff like that. Like sometimes with classic novels you just find like female characters aren't always the best. They're not always portrayed in the best light. But I love Jane. I love Jane so much. I'm obsessed. I gave the book 5 stars. I love Jane Eyre. I love Jane Eyre the character. I love Jane Eyre the book, and I highly recommend it. If you, like me, maybe want to read more classic novels but you don't really know where to start, or you're not as good as understanding the sort of the old styles of writing, I recommend Jane Eyre, because I just feel like for me it was great. It was great. It was easy to understand, and I absolutely adored it. I adored Jane Eyre. So those were the only books I read in February. I'm just gonna make a hasty exit off BookTube now, because I take my 2 books and I'm gonna leave, because that shit's embarrassing. I can't even say that I'm busy. People have like full-time jobs and they still find time to read. I've been sitting at home playing World of Warcraft all day. That's what I've been doing. Sorry about it. Sorry, not sorry actually, because I'm having a great time. But I'm so happy with these books that I read. I'm gonna maybe try and read double this month. I have like a few days more, you know, there's a few days more in March, so we'll see how that goes. But anyway, so thank you so much for watching this video, and I shall see you in my next one, whatever that may be. Probably my next wrap up, because we all know that I rarely make videos. Goodbye.